Excellent!
It's been a while since I covered a power supply, so I wanted to jump back into the game with something big. This is the Corsair HX1200i, a 1200 watt, fully modular, 80 plus platinum rated beast, designed for high-end gaming and workstation desktops. Before I take this out of the box and give you the details or any of that good stuff though, who is this power supply actually made for? I like to play this game with lots of components, as I think that for each product that's brought to market, there's an absolutely ideal situation, the right build for the right person to best make use of that product and give you or that person the best possible bang for the buck. Okay, so it's a 1200 watt power supply, and that makes the first potential scenario pretty easy to determine. 3-way or 4-way graphics card configurations, pretty much. Most single GPU systems can get by with a 500 or maybe a 600 watt power supply, so to really use 1200 watts, you need at least 3 full-sized high-end graphics cards, if not 4, and of course it will vary based on the GPUs and how much is actually needed. These setups are pretty rare though, so is this for anyone else besides that? Well, like a high-end workstation, for example, might have dual Xeons and a Quadro GPU, and then 3 additional Tesla rendering accelerators, for example, or maybe a full complement of FirePro cards. That could be a good example too. Or maybe you're just an energy efficiency fanatic and you really want to be at the peak of that efficiency curve. This is an 80 plus platinum rated unit, so you'll always get at least 89 to 90% efficiency, but you can get close to 93% efficiency if you're only pulling about 600 watts or about 50% of the HX1200i's available wattage. And maybe there's also a silent computing aficionado out there who might note that you can pull up to 480 watts from this unit and the fan won't even need to spin up as long as the temperature inside stays lower than 25°C. 480 watts is all or more than what most gaming desktops need, and while there are other more practical PSUs out there that offer similar functionality, most of them couldn't also kick out 1200 watts if the need were to arise. So if you're one of those people, go ahead and hit that like button because your PSU has arrived. You can still hang around and watch though, even if you're not one of those people. I won't tell, I promise. Okay, before I really move on, there's another question that's bound to come up. That is, why did Corsair make the HX1200i when they already have the AX1200i, which was launched last year? Well, the AX1200i is a digital power supply, and the HX1200i is analog internally. This means, apart from the HX1200i starting at $270 versus the AX, which starts at $320, that while this unit is compatible with Corsair Link, you won't have the same level of control as you would with the digital version, for example. The HXI will give you monitoring for your 12 volt, 5 volt, and 3.3 volt rails, but the AXI can actually control those values. The AXI will also provide readings for AC power input, ATX 24-pin, and 12-volt peripherals, for example. Essentially, if adjusting any of those settings within your power supply is something that you have zero interest in, the HX1200i will provide a better and more cost-effective option, and you'll still get all the same features as far as power delivery, efficiency, and build quality. Moving right along with an unboxing though, you will note Corsair's continued attention to detail when it comes to packaging and accessories. Apart from the PSU itself, you get an instruction booklet and warranty information. There is a 7-year warranty on the HX1200i, very nice. A very appropriate Powered by Corsair case badge, as well as 8 or 10 zip ties and 4 black mounting screws, as well as a thick 14-gauge AC power cable, and do keep this cable with this PSU, as using a thinner gauge cable can lead to melting and even potentially fires in the wrong situation, and that's bad. A suggestion for the future though, friends at Corsair, I've seen 24-pin jumper caps included with power supplies lately that allows you to power it on without connecting it up to a full system, and I really think that that would round out the accessories for a high-end PSU like the HX1200i. The PSU itself comes in a faux velvet bag, which you'll desperately search for use for after installation is complete, and the modular cables. Oh dear God, the modular cables. There are just way too many of them. So let's go ahead and sort that out, shall we? Okay, there's 2 8-pin EPS supplemental CPU power cables for dual CPU or high-end overclocking boards. Of course, the main 24-pin motherboard connector. 4 of those PEG or PCI Express graphics power cables. Each of them has 2 6+2-pin plugs, giving you up to 8 8-pin PEG connectors total for 4-way GPU configurations. For peripherals, you have 4 SATA power cables, each with 4 SATA plugs for 16 total, as well as 3 Molex power cables, each with 4 plugs as well, for 12 total. Finally, there's a couple Molex to floppy plug adapters and a couple cables for connecting your PSU to the rest of your system to enable Corsair Link. Also, did you notice how non-colorful these cables are? They're flat, they're all black, all the way down to the plugs, and outside of custom sleeving jobs, I think they're ideal for looks and stealthy cable management. Physically, this is a large power supply at 7.87 inches or 200 millimeters long. This could cause some space conflicts in smaller cases, so bear that in mind. On the top, or the bottom, depending on how it's oriented, I guess, there's a 140 millimeter fluid dynamic bearing fan, which again does nothing unless the power supply is actually drawing 500 watts or the temps go above 25 degrees Celsius. Besides that, it won't spin and it will make zero noise. At that point, it will spin up on a fan curve that's optimized for low noise, so even if it's spinning, you probably won't even really notice it. On the back, there's some hex grilling for ventilation, your AC cable plug, and a very beefy on-off switch. Each side has the Corsair logo with the HX1200i model name and some blue color accents, and it's oriented so the text should be right side up. Unless you're using a case with a flipped design, of course. On the top is your power chart, and here's another point I've not yet mentioned. This power supply delivers all 1200 watts of its rated power via one single massive 100 amp 12 volt rail. I haven't tested this personally, but according to these numbers, you should be able to power two AMD R9 295X2s off of this single rail. That is quite impressive. Finally, there is the business end with all of the modular cable connection points, all laid out with labeling so you can tell what's what. And on the left side, there's also the Corsair Link stuff, so a couple plugs for those depending on which of the cables you're going to use, and also a fan test button, which, surprisingly enough, tests the fan. It works too. I tried it. The last thing I would usually like to address for a PSU would be internal component choice and build quality, but this power supply really is brand new and there's just no good load test reviews out yet from folks like Johnny Guru, Tech Power Up, Tom's Hardware, or PC Perspective for me to lean on. So I will say this, the history of reviews for other models in the HX wattage I series have been spectacular, with no issues with internals or build quality. Corsair also states that this unit uses all Japanese capacitors rated at 105C, and they do continuous testing, server-grade testing, mind you, at 50C for this unit, so that's what it's validated at. We can also reasonably assume that you can't really qualify for 80 plus platinum rating without using some quality parts inside. So with all that said, what do you guys think of the HX1200i? Is 1200 watts too much for you? Or are you happy to have a high quality / lower cost option versus the bells and whistles laden AX series? Let me know in the comment section down below. Click away on that like button while you're at it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Share this video, maybe stop by and pick up a t-shirt at store.hallshardware.net. And as always, thanks for watching.